Just a few days back. It was fascinating. I was walking, one with the nature, hearing the rustle of the leaves and the swish of the wind and the chirping of the birds. And then something kicked in and I jumped. So, what happened was, out of the corner of my eye, I saw baby copperhead snake. So, if I had probably stepped on it, I would have been bit, and baby copper snakes are pretty venomous. So, where I'm going with this is being present for yourself, being present for others. And I want to share that. That's why I cherish my time with you because you provide that time to us and you're part of the family. So, thank you to each and every one of you who have got our books. If you have not got our books, please get them because part of the profits go help women entrepreneurs all across the globe. Kiva.org, you can check it out. Not only that, any of our books, especially the two that you're seeing behind, Expert to Influencer and The Entrepreneur's Garden, will change your lives. And how can I say that? It's based on the experiences of the readers and their feedback. And as always, I'm going to invite you to take that hour, split it into multiple times, and keep that kindness circle going because a little kindness goes a long way. And the story that I want to share with you of kindness is I love walking, as most of you most likely know. And just a couple of days back, I was going, and this beautiful, energetic, wonderful woman going on a bike. And it didn't matter who it was, whether people replied back to her or not. She kept on saying good morning to everyone on the track. And I can tell you, it brought a smile to my face and set my day on a right note. So think about it as little as that, where you can share a bit of yourself with others, you can light up the way for them. All right, let's bring on our guests. Welcome, Jessica.
Hi, Divya. Thank you for having me this morning. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Those are great stories on your walks. That,
Well, thank you.
that would have
It's the
terrified me.
most likely it would have terrified me too. I think it was just an instinctual reaction or response, whatever we want to call it. So it's lovely to have you. We usually get started with your childhood journey. Do you recall any moment or a person that you remember even to this day?
Ooh, so I'm a wealth advisor. I grew up. My father's been a wealth advisor for over 40 years. So when I'm asked about my childhood, that's always been a theme in there, whether it was I was stuffing envelopes for his business at a very young age, sitting on the family room rug, watching TV and stuffing envelopes and getting some cash to do that. Or I remember I had this little tin in my room and I loved to put my money in the tin. And whenever I would go in my room, lock my door, I would count the cash. I think my parents knew how much I loved the tin and the magical money within it. So whenever I was bad and I would run into my room in a tantrum state of a, I don't know, meltdown, tantrum, whatever you want to call it, I would lock the door and they would come and they would bang on the door and say, Jessica Claire, if you don't open this door right away, we're taking away all your money.
Oh,
And that was one of the, not that it was a huge traumatic event, but I call it trauma because it was a life altering thing. It started to create this narrative around money in my world,
mm,
that there's fear around money, that money can be taken away from you.
mm,
So whenever I'm asked about childhood, I usually think of that story and how it shaped a lot of decisions moving forward with money. It's also, I can identify that fear very quickly with other people when it comes to their money, especially working with them
mhm.
as an advisor as well. I'm curious, do you have a childhood story around money, that like that first memory of money growing up?
I do have. So Basically, I used to love collecting coins, the different types of coins.
Ooh.
And so we didn't get an allowance. Usually, you can say that I was spoiled, usually, whatever I asked, I got. So I never had that barrier that, like, oh, And of course, it's not like I was going to ask for anything huge or something like that, but like little things, we'd get it. And I used to collect those coins. And I still remember to this day that there was something going on. Like, I don't remember what was the issue. And like, my parents needed some money for something urgent. And they're like, okay, we don't have time to go to the bank because, yeah, you guys might guess that I'm not a dinosaur, but like, in good old days, there was no mobile banking. So you would have to go, like, if you don't have cash on hand. So I said, here, take my box. And it was just kind of amazing. Whatever, there was quite a bit of money, like, over a period of time I had stacked. And as I'm sure we'll be going into compounding and all that as we talk about, it helped my parents in that pinch. So you never know how narratives you have, and we can definitely jump into it, and how it can impact your behaviors and decision making and all that. So as you grew, which career did you take on?
Sure. I actually started getting my securities licenses to become an advisor in college. I had some internships at my father's firm, other firms as well, one on the insurance side of things. And then when I graduated college in 2010, I finished the summer just studying and getting the rest of the licenses, my insurance, my Series 60, 66, Series 7, and then I started my certified financial planner designation right after that. So I felt like I did more studying that summer than I did my entire 4 years of college. I jam packed it all in because I was very eager to dive into this new job, this new career. And also, I was working with my father and my brother at the time too. So
Mm,
it felt very exciting to be building something together as well. And I've been an advisor ever since 2010, but there wasn't a straight path to where I am today, as it very
got it.
rarely happens that way, right?
Right,
Or
right. So you mentioned that you are taking security. So sounds like money has been definitely a very strong suit in your life. And as your father was a wealth advisor, so did you ever think of doing anything else except for going into?
yes, I grew up playing basketball. I played basketball all through college. I loved it. That's where my husband was a basketball player in college as well. So part of me wanted to be a basketball coach. I thought that would be really neat. I went overseas to play a few times, and I love the community with having a team and having the leadership with coaches, and then the coaches playing different roles and kind of appealing to you at different moments as well. And I was very drawn to that. Also, the psychology behind it, working with different sports psychologists as well. And then I ended up kind of combining both that coaching mentorship community with the money side of things. And I remember looking and just sitting in on my father's meetings with his clients and realizing, kind of connected the dots for me, he is a coach. He is coaching and advising and guiding them. And sometimes it's advice, sometimes it's guidance, sometimes it is coaching. And sometimes, not that we're therapists, but it can be very therapeutic, the work that we do as well. And there's definitely a psychology behind it. There's a lot of mindset work behind it.
Mhm.
So it kind of combined all those worlds together. And I loved being a part of a team. At that time, it was my father, my brother's team, and the back office support, and being able to work one on one with people. And then as my career progressed, I built more and more of that community. And that community, I wanted to focus on women. I saw how neglected women are in the industry, whether you're a female advisor. Female advisors make up only 18% of all financial advisors. And Divya, that number hasn't changed in 20 years. In 2 decades, it
Oh,
hasn't
wow.
changed. So, what's that barrier for women entering the industry or keeping them there? We saw a
Yeah,
lot
no,
more.
definitely. Yeah,
Yeah, we saw a
it's
lot
something
less
to be looked
during
at.
the pandemic.
So,
Mhm.
question for you, Jessica.
Yeah.
How was your experience in your father's firm? Like, because here you are, you mentioned that, that women's numbers in the financial advising industry has not changed within 20 years. Now, when you go back and when you were with your father and with your brother, did you feel any time like, oh, I'm the only one? Or did you just were
Mhm.
comfortable? Tell us about your experience in that.
That's a good question. So there were a lot of dynamics at play. I am the younger sister, right? I'm my father's little girl. I'm my brother's younger sister. So we had those relationship dynamics. And then I was the only female advisor. There were a few other male advisors, a part of our firm. And this is a typical situation or setup of most financial firms where the back office support, about 80, 90% are women. So there were women in the office, they just didn't have the same client facing roles that I had. So I did feel, even though my father, my brother, I know they love me and I love them, I did feel like the underdog. I felt like I was part of the boys club, and just to humor, right? Wholesalers would come into the office and they're mostly men. So they're using, right? We're going golfing, we're going to go get cigars, we're going to, or saying these jokes that are more catered towards men as well. So I begged my father, can I do something for women? And so within my father's firm, I started to create what is now the Women's Wealth Boutique, a separate, complete separate firm as from my father's. But I started to create that and just having events for female clients and prospects that led to my blog, Not Your Father's Advisor, which led to my 3 books. And now we have our very own Women's Wealth Boutique that we opened up last year, March of last year, 2021, 2022, and we've brought on 7 female advisors within a year. So I kind of knew I wasn't the right spot at my father's firm. He's a very traditional advisor, which is fine. It's great. He's a very, very good advisor. My brother's a great advisor. But for me, I wanted to do so much more. I wanted to do more outreach to women, whether through books, podcasts, being on the show, things like that. And the traditional firm isn't set up for that. There's too much regulation, too much oversight, and things just take way too long to get anything done. So I said to my father in 2021, I'm going to set up my own firm that will give me the freedom to pursue these endeavors and to build out this really true community that's built by women and for women as well. And along that path, I started speaking with other advisors, and they were running into the same issues I was. They weren't happy. They felt very undervalued, neglected, beaten down, just with everyone telling them no over and over again. And that takes a toll on your self
Mhm.
confidence, right? And
Oh,
just
absolutely.
well,
And as it is, we have seen it's not that men don't struggle with confidence, but women have been known to check themselves like, okay, if I did this, and even Angela Merkel in one of her interviews said that, like, and she is like, Angela Merkel has been one of the top leaders in the world. And she would say that she would double check her work and do more research and prep more. So women do have that area or gap, whatever we want to call it, where they do the additional work to make sure that they're on par. So when you say that, you mentioned that, like, there are lots of rules and regulations for the traditional firms, whereas yours
mhm.
not. So tell us what's the difference between the traditional and your boutique.
Sure. So a traditional broker dealer, we call them, they are regulated by different parties, the SEC, Securities Exchange Commission, FINRA, different places. They regulate their broker dealers, and then the broker dealers regulate the advisors within that.
Hmm.
And most of the time they're very, very large. So if I wanted to get a book done now, they don't want every advisor to write a book because that's way too much work for them. It's not cost effective for them. So they're much more entitled to just say no. You can't do a book or do social media, go on TV, have a podcast. Or if they say yes, it's a very long process to execute it because it needs to go through compliance. And now you're battling your spot with thousands of other advisors as well. we're set up, we are a registered investment advisory firm, an RIA, and we are directly regulated by the states and the SEC. So there's no one in between us. We are just directly audited and regulated by them. So now we have our
Mm,
own in-house compliance team that I work with very intimately. I'm the chief compliance officer. So it's we can get things done quicker. We also know the mission behind it, the integrity, the right what is the purpose behind any marketing pieces, projects, endeavors, and we're able to get things done a lot quicker and still be in brand and in alignment with what our true purpose is. And our biggest push is just financial education and literacy out there for women and not just female clients and investors, but also female advisors so that they know what their rights are as an advisor in this industry. What are they giving up being at a certain place? Where are their opportunities and where do they want to kind of play? There's so many different ways you can be an advisor as a female.
mm-hmm. No, definitely. That makes sense. So, all right. So now congratulations on all your success. You have accomplished a lot and paving the path for women. Now, when our audience is listening, I know that there are a lot of barriers to women and women making money. So, in your experience, what would you say are the three main or four or five main barriers that stand between women and wealth?
Ooh, I this is a perfect timing. I've been talking with a lot of female advisors over the last 2 weeks about this exact topic. So just taking into account, what the consensus has been with the other female advisors. One that we've been noticing a big trend is when men try to have us do it their way and it doesn't feel right. Because most advisors, again, they're men. Most of our mentors, being female advisors in the industry, are men. And so we deal with the same thing is, right, you just need to do it this way. But women make decisions very differently. We like to get educated first. We take our time. But Divya, we're also more likely to stick with our investment choices. Whereas men, they'll be riskier, but they will flip flop back and forth more. So we make decisions differently. We're going to approach risk in a very different capacity. We aren't as much of a risk taker as men. So that's been another barrier to entry is understanding what's the risk I'm taking? How do I protect against that risk as well so that if something were to happen, I'm okay, my family's okay, my house, etc., are in good shape too. So I think it's the education, it's the risk appetite for women. We are seeing women wanting to take more risks now, especially the women I'm working with. And like the education, women weren't taught about money at an early age. We're starting to see that trend a lot differently. But a lot of times in the households, as a young girl, you're seeing your mom who's at home, she might be paying the bills, but the typical role, the husband, the dad, is managing the overall household finances. And a lot of times it was a faux pas to talk about money, so that there wasn't a lot of communication about money back then. So educating women on it, and that's going to lead to them wanting to take more risk because they understand it, they're more comfortable, and then finally we're going to build that confidence. And I think as you hit the nail on the head before, it's that lack of confidence in themselves. There's a lot of fear driving women's decisions with money. We want it to be the opposite. So whenever we make a decision out of fear, we don't get what we want. We usually stay in this a very similar pattern or cycle that we've been in as well. And that's why I love the community because women can really rally around each other, can't they? But unfortunately, we've been told you can't talk about money. So we're not rallying around each other with money because we're not talking about it. It's not an open communication. And that's what we've been working very hard to build has been a priority for our advisors because we deal with the same issues that our female clients are. And what I love about our community at the Women's Wealth Boutique is now we're talking about it. We're being very vulnerable as advisors. We're getting ourselves on the same level page and playing field as our clients so they can see, right, we're in this with them, we're figuring out, and we're going to help them figure it out. And we're going to guide them along the way as
Hmm.
well.
So you mentioned about the fears that women are not very much open to money or like taking risks. They like to get educated.
Mhm.
So let's get to the bottom of it. When you talk about fears, what fears are they experiencing? And how can we educate them so that way they can make informed decisions?
Ooh, a lot of times for women there, we're thinking about everybody else first. And we don't like to disappoint people. We don't want to be viewed as a failure. I think this comes with that confidence as well. We're making sure everybody else is okay first, and we're putting ourselves last. We hear about this a lot, social media and books, the news now, especially. So helping women understand when they take care of themselves, how they also take care of their families. But if I'll give you an example, one of my clients, we call her Aunt Didi, and Aunt Didi was single, no kids of her own, but she was always helping her nieces and nephews and her siblings. And she felt obviously this huge burden on her. I mean, the exhaustion, the pressure was mounting. It was taking a huge impact on her health. She was extremely unhealthy. That was racking up medical bills on top of it. And I finally said to Aunt Didi, what happens if Aunt Didi runs out of money? And she wanted to retire at some point, and it finally hit her that if she runs out of money, everybody is going to run out of money. Everybody's screwed then. And she had to learn how to set up healthy boundaries, how to have a actual structure behind the flow of her money. The money comes in, where is it going? How is it going to be best used? And there's still a bucket for giving back to her family, but if it wasn't filled yet, she was going to have to start learning no or not yet. And her family's going to have to start planning ahead a lot more. I remember her niece totaled her car about 3 times. Divya. But and Auntie would just step in and save the day again and again. So there was a lot of responsibility that her family members had to start taking upon themselves and to grow. And it was ending this pattern of enabling. And this pressure was taken off of Aunt Didi finally for it. So I think part of it is that fear of letting people down. And so you're over giving, you're over exhausting yourself, and your finances, you're over exhausting as well. I hear a lot of women that fear of, running out of money, especially if they're financially independent women or they're single by themselves. And they're terrified if they make a wrong decision with money, that means they failed themselves. I think it's building a trust, an internal trust for women, and to move from this being terrified of money, terrified of losing money, but also terrified of having money and blowing it too. I think there's a big lack of trust for women within themselves that we need to solve.
Hmm. No, definitely. You bring up some very good points that how that lack of confidence, and the key is not even just kind of saying lack of confidence, it is getting to the root cause of it. You mentioned about not letting people down, feeling like a
Mhm.
failure, and examining yourself, bringing that awareness to yourself, and start setting boundaries. And even if it means taking one tiny step at a time, it works. But so many times, people are thinking, oh, I got to achieve this within a week or within 2 weeks. The key to remember is that it took you almost 12 years to get through kindergarten and high school.
Ooh.
So this is school of life. And it's going to take time. So giving yourself that space and compassion to move through it.
Yeah.
So another leak you have talked about is that there are money leaks because women operate under very complicated systems. Can you share with us a little bit about those money leaks?
Sure. I just had a couple. We did a strategy session together, and they each had their own business. And then they had passive income on top of it, and then they had their household cash flow money on top of it. And they're like, there's money coming in and out. We have no idea what's going on with it. At the end of the day, we feel like we make really good money, but there's not much after all the bills are paid. And I hear the story a lot. And there comes a point in time when your money just gets too complicated for, right? Money should go into one account, everything's paid, and we move the rest to savings. It's too complicated for that. You're managing a household on top of businesses or on top of other pieces of the puzzle. So I like to keep things as simple as possible, but when things get too complicated, we're missing things. And in a virtual world with money, it can happen very quickly. We have PayPal, we have Venmo, Amazon. Money's flying out, and we're not even seeing it or feeling it yet. And then on top of it, with the credit cards, and then after experiencing such high inflation, this is hitting people more and more with the debt. And I've seen that with clients, with new clients, people coming to me, people going through divorce. It's
Mm.
not a good situation right now when things are costing so much money on top of it. And a lot of times, too, we're too busy in our world. So there's time leaks. You don't have time to create a real grocery list. And I'm guilty of this. And so you forget things, and then you have to run back to the store multiple times, or even just going on Amazon multiple times during the week. That's taking you out of your flow at work or out of your being present at home in that time. So I've heard, other financial experts talk about this, and it's a great point that look how many transactions you have on your statements. And if there are a lot of transactions, multiple in a day, there's a time leak, and that means there's a money leak too. It's taking you away from making money, or you're spending extra because you go into Target 3 times a week or to the grocery store multiple times a week, and you see things and you just throw them in your cart
Mhm.
as well. But it comes to a point where we're managing too many different flows of money, or we're too busy with our day-to-day life. And again, I'm guilty of this. I have 2 young kids, a 5-year, almost 6-year-old, and a 3-year-old. My husband works, I work. Right? It's a process to keep an organized household running efficiently. So there are time leaks because you don't have the time to sit down and plan out the week, plan out your grocery trips or your errands and things like that as well. So getting a system where you can start tracking what money is coming in, the net amount, forget about the before taxes, right? What's the net amount that we're working with in your bank account? And what are all of these expenses? And a lot of times there's these small frivolous expenses, $5 here, $20 here, $30 here. But on the credit card, they start to really add up for people. And then reprioritizing, where do you want to spend your money? And just to earn more money constantly is not the solution, because now you're in this rat race and a lot of pressure on you to just constantly earn more and more and more. And as we earn more and more and more, our expenses keep going up right with it. So we want to keep both of those in check as we're building out your kind of that infrastructure for your money. Okay.
So having a pulse on your cash flow, what's coming in, what's going out. And I really like what you mentioned about the time leak, because there's only so much time in the day, especially if you have a young family like yourself, and planning out. So, yes, it may seem daunting that, oh, I gotta sit down on Sunday night or Saturday night, got a lot of things happening, birthday parties, or depending where you are at in your journey. And especially if you're an entrepreneur, it's a 24/7 thing. You're never unplugged fully.
No.
So figuring out where is your time spent, that's a really, really good strategy, and especially like multiple transactions. And
Mhm.
this is what something I used to do a few years back. I love Target. And when I went to Target, I would pick up few things that I did not need. So since then, what I've done is I really, before I go to Target, first of all, I have a list. And then secondly, I will look around. What do I already have before I make that list? Because so many times you already have things in the house.
Mhm.
So that has helped me a lot,
It's a
because
very
what
good
you're
habit
talking
to have.
about, I would have multiple transactions and running to the grocery store. But then as you start putting in the systems, it can really help. So let's say there's a momopreneur. What systems would you outline that would make her life easier and keep the wealth in?
I'm sorry, what was that again, Divya?
Sure. So, like, let's say if it's a mompreneur, a mom, or it doesn't matter, a woman who's an entrepreneur, and now she needs to create her systems. What are like three or four main systems that they need to have in place so that they are able to sustain the wealth that they're bringing in?
Ooh, good question. Yes. One is a system to review the money that's coming in and going out and do it monthly, quarterly, depending on how you get paid. But keep track of that. It keeps you accountable, it keeps your team accountable, and also time to celebrate too. And it shouldn't be a daunting thing, it should be an exciting thing. If the women avoid it because it's not where they want to be, or they think it's going to be too painful to be, but how can we neutralize it and just be a tool to see where you should be spending your time and effort the next month as well? So what is that system? Is it QuickBooks? Is it an Excel sheet? Usually things will get too complicated. Eventually, you will need a QuickBooks kind of system as things get plugged into it as well. So, some sort of system to track your spending and your income, and then to review it on a regular basis and to see how it's progressing. It's also going to help you out if you're looking for funding grants down the road as well. You can see how are we going, what's the amount of money we need, having, that profit loss statement, that balance sheets, you're going to be ahead of the ball just preparing for that journey as well. Another system
Mhm.
is the actual flow of money. Most people just have that one bank account and then they'll have all their expenses come from there. But especially for a newer business owner, setting up another account to shift money over for taxes, because that money comes in, it doesn't mean it's all yours. You need to split that with the IRS, the government. So shifting over 20, 30, work with your accountant on this percent each time, because I've seen this happen a lot. And I just had a client and I gave her this exact lesson tip. She has a full year of income now. She hasn't set aside anything for taxes. So she's going to start next year behind the ball owing money that she doesn't have on top of it. So shift that money aside. I also like to have an account that you move money into when you get paid to invest back into your business. And that could be whether it's hiring a coach, getting office space, hiring. But when that pulls from cash flow, those one time large expenses, it feels very restrictive. And all of a sudden, you're back in that scarcity mindset, desperate to get more sales in. And we don't want that. So, having a bucket that you can move money into your business when you're ready for that next growth spurt or leap as well. And then set up something for your retirement. Again, all of these are just going to be assets of your business. So now your business is building equity as well. And that's a very powerful moment. Your money is earning money. Your business is building not just cash flow, but real equity that you can use for real estate down the road. Or if you're going to get bought out, it's just adding more and more value to your business too. So set up some extra accounts that you can shift money into. We go into this in my book, Confessions of a Money Queen. It's my stable money saver, and it doesn't feel restrictive at all. We're just slowly building up these different accounts and building wealth, equity, assets that you can use now or down the road too for your business.
No, that's definitely a good point because one of the years when we did really well and when it came to the tax season and the amount of taxes we had to pay, it just left our whole team gawking like, oh goodness, like this is way too much. So from that point forward, we started like, okay, how can we go ahead and estimate what's going to be, and then
Mhm.
having that account and paying it off even during the current year. So when it comes to that time, it's not so daunting. And similarly, like you said, that it's important to invest because when you are building that equity for your business, you are working towards exit planning,
Mhm.
which is very important because when you're in the corporate world, you're thinking about retirement. And it's also important to see how will you exit your business in case if it gets bought out or if it's continued, what's your legacy? So some really great points to think about.
Yes, thank
You
you for bringing up legacy. I just want to add in there too. Everybody tries to deduct as much possible from their income, their revenue for tax purposes, right? They're going to throw in their cars, their phones, everything. But if you are planning to sell your business one day or be bought out if you were to pass away with a succession plan, you don't want that clogging up the revenue because your business won't be worth as much money. So keep in mind, what is your strategy? Is it just to take advantage of taxes now, or is it where the valuation of your future sale of the business as well? It's two different mindsets, two different paths forward, and one's not right for everybody. But think about that if you do want to sell your business in the future. And hopefully you do, because you've built something amazing that now can keep moving on and you get to cash out eventually.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, that makes perfect sense because, and what you mentioned is about that think about it, which path you want to take. And it goes back to having that clarity. Where is it that you want to go? What is it that you want to achieve? Where you're going to be in 5, 10, 15, 20 years of time. How's your family taken care of? How's your business taken care of? Going back to scarcity mindset, how can women get over their scarcity mindsets?
There's a few different ways that we teach. I do a daily money practice. I call it Divya, where I sit down, I get in my office at 8 a.m. after dropping my kids off. And I need a moment after getting the two young kids out, out the door in the morning. And I sit and I do some journal work. I read, I meditate, I pray, and it just gets me very grounded for the day. And my first step in the journal work is I have to fill a full page of everything I'm grateful for. So gratitude is one of the quickest ways to shift out of scarcity minds. Is just to think about all the different ways that you are blessed, that money is coming to you, or you're in God's favor, right? That money is
Mhm.
showing up for you. And it could be the small check in the mail. Don't discredit that. That is still money coming into your world. You can start picturing it with multiple zeros on the end of it, if that helps you too. So gratitude's a great way. Meditation, I'm become a huge fan of meditation ever since during the pandemic. I gave myself a 30-day meditation challenge and I loved it so much. I've been doing it every day, multiple times a day. That is a way for you to get in touch with your intuition, with your subconscious, see what is there any underlying belief system that we need to rework or discredit to make it on the more abundant side. It also allows your nervous system to heal. It allows your brain to get oxygen, blood, nutrients pumping back into it. So you're not constantly in the stress mode or survival mode, which always leads to scarcity. So meditation, breath work is another great tool to recenter yourself as well. Some people love getting in touch with nature, going for a walk.
Mhm.
Um, and I'll combine a few of those. People often see me doing laps around my office building if it's nice outside in between meetings. And it's just a time to disconnect from the technology and connect back with myself and keep that narrative in my mind in check. Because was it, I think 80 or 90% of our thoughts are repetitive thoughts. So we're literally telling ourselves the same thing over and over and over again. And if that narrative is negative, it's going to affect your money. But where you focus is what grows and what flows. The more positive we can be, the better as well.
Mhm.
Yeah. How do you like to shift out of scarcity mode?
That's really good. And I really like that. Check in with yourself multiple times during the day,
Hmm.
whether it's through grounding, whether it's to check in if you have that negative narrative running, or even if it's just a run or a walk around the block. So let's say if somebody were to come and wanted to work with you, can you share with us if someone comes to you, what does that look like and where can they connect with you?
Of course, they connect with me at jessicaweaver.com. We also have our amazing lineup of female advisors at the Women's Wealth Boutique at womenswealthboutique.com, as well as where the financial firm, all the ladies are. We have events through the year. We have my books available at jessicaweaver.com. You can get the free audiobook of Confessions of a Money Queen. And that will give you a taste into what we were just talking about. There's money meditations in there. There's journal work that works on any money trauma or any narrative that we need to reboot. And then the practical side, as I was talking about with the stable money saver, those systems. So that really marries the abundant spiritual side of money with the practical to build the trust and the behaviors to get yourself going as well. And we have courses, or you can work one-on-one with myself or one of our amazing advisors at the Women's Wealth Boutique, where we'll build out your financial plan, your estate plan, and then also full-time capacity where we're helping manage your money and implement your plan with you, which is our favorite thing to do, building out these relationships with our clients that last years and decades and multi-generations of family members. It's amazing to see. It really is.
Absolutely. So that's excellent. And I'm sure there are a lot of women listeners who will be looking forward to getting in touch with you, consuming your content, your books, your audiobooks. So thank you for joining us, Jessica.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on here. We would love to work with anybody who's a fan of your show, Divya, that's in your world, whether it's just with a book or as a client. It doesn't matter. We just want to get that literacy out there for women, the support in the community to get them building real wealth, life-changing wealth. That is our goal.
Well, that's an admirable work that you're doing. And, it's wonderful that you continue building that community and making a difference. So thank you for joining us. And thank you, listeners, for being part of our family, because without you, the show would not be possible. And thank you for reaching out to us with what do you want and how can we help you to live the life you deserve and want. And thank you, Juan, for making this show technically possible. And I'll see you next time. Take care and be well.
Thank you for being part of Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. We hope you have learned more about how to start living the life you want. Each week on Beyond Confidence, you hear stories of real people who have experienced growth by overcoming their fears and building meaningful relationships. During Beyond Confidence, Divya Parekh shares what happened to her when she stepped out of her comfort zone to work directly with people across the globe. She not only coaches people how to form heart connections, but also transform relationships to mutually beneficial partnerships as they strive to live the life they want. If you are ready to live the life you want and leverage your strengths, learn more at www.divyaparekh.com. And you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. We look forward to you joining us next week.